if I'm going to recruit you, I want to represent my client authentically
Mm-hmm.
again
Mm-hmm.
and not spin
Yeah.
anything. Because at the end of the day, if I do
Mm-hmm.
what I do well, you're going to stay. I'm building a career, not just a job.
Welcome to another Growth Game podcast. I'm your host, Paul DeLuca with Meritus Capital, the CEO. And one of my favorite times of the week is to be able to get on the podcast and be able to meet new people in the staffing industry. And we are doing that again today. So we're super happy that we have Carol Ann Wentworth with us. Carol, it's fantastic that we get to meet today and also to have you on the podcast. Thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
Absolutely. Well, this is great. Certainly, you've been in the recruiting and staffing, talent management space for many years. I have as well. I'll give you a quick little backgrounder on me. I was essentially in a specialty staffing firm in the 90s, kind of grew up in a family organization, had my first company in the 90s, and I financed it with an outside finance company. And then I thought, boy, I really enjoy financing staffing companies. So I sold my company and I started in the late 90s. I've grown 4 different funds over the years, and primarily everything that I've done has been in the temporary staffing. Contract space is really what we finance, and of course, working with recruiters that have come out of recruiting and have a contract side of their business now. So, spend a lot of time in and around the staffing business. So, love to understand a little bit more about your background. Sounds like you've been doing it a long time. So, what drew you to this, and how did you get into the recruiting and staffing business?
Oh, well, Paul, thank you kindly for your introduction. It is wonderful to meet a person that's done this dance, and I probably have done it much longer than a lot of people because I simply love helping people. It really is what drew me in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how I got into it in my early 20s, I had actually attended, I lived back in Minneapolis at the time, and I
Okay.
had attended a conference, which we did when it snowed all the time, right? It's like, what do you do on a weekend that can elevate you and that you can learn? I
Right.
attended a lot of conferences, and in those days, which were the 80s,
Sure.
they usually
Yeah.
consisted of Tony Robbins before he was Tony, Harvey McCabe, Zig
Right.
Ziglar, Jim Rohn, and
Yeah.
there was a gentleman that
Yeah.
I wanted to go see named Bob Holker, who was #1 in the world
Okay.
in the Shackley organization. If you had ever,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
yes, the
Yeah.
Shackley
Yeah. I can
product
remember hearing that name.
and
Sure.
nutrition, health. Oh my goodness. So I drove, went by myself, sat in that front row, and as I'm listening to these people, I thought I found my tribe. I loved what I was hearing.
Yeah.
I'm learning, and then I have a way of drawing things into me. And I set my
Yeah.
sight that I wanted to meet Bob Holker after and get his book. It was called Master Motivation. And
Yeah.
so I waited an hour after the conference and got his last book. And this was actually a very key turning point in my life because we visited and I had already been using all the health and nutrition, passionate about that. And so we met and it was just like, oh, thank you for your time. 6 months later, Paul, he called me and asked me to come out to his 72-room mansion that sat in the hills of Wayzata. And he had 7
Yeah.
kids that performed like the Osmond family. I mean, it was bigger
Yeah.
than life. And
Yeah.
he
Wow.
asked me if I, in those days, would be interested in being his executive secretary. And I thought,
Ah,
yeah, I would love to. And so,
yeah.
well, I
Wow.
started with him on a 3.5-year journey, and I met
Yeah.
every top speaker from around the world. And I also was the
Huh?
head of his recruitment for a
Mm.
division of his business, meaning I got into teaching in, again, those days, aerobics and all the wonderful fitness things. And it just,
Fun.
and so I was able to recruit people for his division, but it also led
Sure.
me to know I one day want my own business. So then fast forward
Yeah.
ahead, I met a gentleman that was in that industry and we
Hmm.
married. He moved me to Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And at the time, I just kept seeing all these incredible faces. I had been a talent in modeling, and I'm going to weave
Uh-huh.
this story together. When I was in Minneapolis,
Sure.
All American Girl, Girl Next Door, things.
Yeah.
So
Right.
now I'm promoting health fitness and the
Yeah.
passion for, nutrition. And then I kept finding these faces, and I thought I should start my own agency. Why not? And so in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, you have to understand this is a very interesting town. And people said I could
Yeah.
never do it, but I thought you never know till
Yeah.
you try. And so I opened
Hmm.
my first startup, launched my first startup at age 25. Within six
Fun.
months, and this is that pivotal time for me in my life, I had set a goal,
Yeah.
Paul, and I had it on my wall, like I have my goals right here. I wanted to work with
Nice.
Eileen Ford out of New York City. If I was going to do this, I want to be
Uh-huh.
the best. And it turned out there
Yeah.
was a Midwest model search, 6 states,
Uh-huh.
500 girls, 5 finalists, and 3 of them
Yeah.
came from my agency. And Eileen,
Oh, how
and
fun.
it was on one photo, and I directed the shoot, the hair, makeup to be authentic, no boa feathers.
Yeah.
Back in those days,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, and even the photographer that took those
Hmm.
photos, I helped launch his career, and today he's world renowned. I mean,
Fun.
Tony Duran, you'll have to look him up. He actually
I
did my
will.
headshot just a year ago in Los Angeles. But so
Nice.
long story
Nice.
short, I had 10 years of recruiting for Eileen
Hmm.
Ford out of New York City and placed
Got
people
it.
all over the world.
Fun. Nice. That's fun. Well, it sounds like one of the common themes of everybody who's in this business is that they really attract people who are people oriented, are people centric, and everybody who's in this business, that's one of the reasons they're in it. And the people that are passionate about it, I find, are the ones that really genuinely enjoy helping people thrive and get going in their careers. And that's actually one of the reasons I think I love it so much. I agree with you. I've been doing it a long time, but I'm still passionate about my business. I get up every day and I enjoy seeing entrepreneurs thrive and continue to grow. So it's very enjoyable. Well, very cool. So you have a unique approach, something that I've seen you talk a lot about. You talk about your mindfulness approach. I think you call it your 9-step method. So love to hear a little bit about your how this plays into kind of what you do every day, your process.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Well, here's what's fascinating. I actually have been doing this methodology since the 80s,
Hmm.
but it became a
Okay.
thing really in the last, as
Hmm.
you know, um, what, 5, 7 years, probably more 5, I would
Right.
say before COVID. Everybody was into
Hmm.
mindfulness and
Yeah.
something. Um, for me, it is about the pause. It is about
Hmm.
breathing. It is about
Hmm.
active listening. It is about, and that is
Hmm.
both for the client and the candidate, and letting them know I
Hmm.
can hear them and I can also hear
Hmm.
what they're not saying because I can
Right.
read body language and you can
Hmm.
tell the frequency, the energy. And so
Yeah.
I let, first of all, clients that I work with, I am so blessed. I have the coolest clients and they've come
Hmm.
by the most interesting ways. And so that is the other
Yeah.
piece of the mindfulness because I don't worry about the next search. I really
Yeah.
trust the process. And I am
Hmm.
blessed that my two biggest clients over the last 10 years, when we launched our firm, literally
Hmm.
people ask them, where are you getting these people? And then the referrals come.
Right.
So it's been
Yeah.
really a wonderful, just thorough process. And I would
Hmm.
say the mindfulness piece comes also for me when something goes
Hmm.
sideways with a
Sure.
candidate, which we all have experienced, or a
Hmm.
client that needs to put a project on hold because they can't get funding for a life science $1 billion project, which happened to us at the beginning of the
Right.
year on 2 C-level
Sure.
searches. And I was like,
Ouch.
it's okay. I'm here when
Yeah.
and I actually talked to one of the VPs yesterday. And she said, Carol
Uh-huh.
Ann, she said, it's coming. We're seeing the
Yeah.
needle move in the industry. And
Right.
so,
Right.
um, yeah, I just have to breathe and do breath work and then just know it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. Work through the challenges, right? Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to do, but
Mhm.
isn't it true that when you have that ability to pause and not get overly tied to the current immediate challenge, look at it from a more macro perspective, you're able to work through and deal with so many difficult situations, right? I find that a lot in my business. You know, we've financed well over 800 staffing companies over the years, and that is not without
Yes,
challenges.
yes.
and you know, I just had a former client come back to me and recently had that conversation. She said, you know, the reason I'm attracted to come back is because of the way you and your firm dealt with the really difficult situations. And you know, when we had those problems, we were calm about it. You proactively worked with us, and you know, she said, I'm not getting that from my current provider. It was actually for with a company that I had sold off many years ago. But she's coming back saying, listen, Paul, your style of management and what reflects down through your operations and your people, and that approach to the business when challenges happen of not being overreacting is really what she was needing. And so it's kind of goes into that whole approach of being careful on the next way you communicate
Yes.
and deal with the next challenges. Yeah. So talent acquisition is such a, you know, interesting, can be very enjoyable part
Yes.
of the business. But you know, how do you find that? Because it's obviously very competitive as well, right?
Mhm.
So how do you find that you're able to find the right candidates? You know, what makes your approach percolate that quality candidate that makes your client go, wow, I haven't seen this kind of a quality candidate before from my other provider? What makes what you do work?
Well, I think the first thing is I'm very, I am very mindful of a candidate's time. I think I can't do what
Hmm.
I do without them. And so even when
Yeah.
I craft my messages to them on LinkedIn Recruiter, every one is personalized,
Hmm.
Paul. I don't spray
Right.
and pray. Years
Yeah.
ago, I lasted 2 months in a contingency firm and thought I was going to die because it was
Sure.
all about numbers and it was
Yeah.
disappointing. And it's actually what drove
Yeah.
me to starting my own firm 10 years ago. But um,
Yeah.
I'm I'm pleasantly persistent. I'm not
Yeah.
annoying, but I will write
Hmm.
some beautiful notes. And if I know someone that's
Yeah.
connected to them, I might reach out and say,
Hmm.
"Hey, Paul, I've been trying to get a hold of John. Can you help me give him a nudge?"
Yeah.
If that even
Yeah.
happens,
Good.
and that has happened with a C
Hmm.
level search I did several years ago for our global solar client, the gentleman
Uh-huh.
out east in a heartbeat reached out to the gentleman because the
Yeah.
guy I wanted, no one knew. I didn't even know he was available because it was a very
Oh, wow.
confidential search. But I knew someone well
Sure.
connected. And as a gratitude gift, we sent him
Hmm.
$2,000 as a thank you because I couldn't have gotten to
Yeah.
him without that. So I'm very
Sure.
mindful there too that if someone opens their network to me, depending on the level of the search, we share.
Hmm.
I believe in paying
Hmm.
it forward. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it obviously keeps you top of mind and creates a relationship. Very nice. Yeah, I like the individualized style. I mean, yeah, you know, just going out to everybody at the same time. There's so many direct messages now. It's just becoming less and less, you know, attractive at all. I mean, I'm seeing the messaging that you see on LinkedIn and email and everything. I honestly, so much of it is so poorly
Yes.
written. I don't. It's mind numbing sometimes. But talk to me a little bit about your ability to connect with businesses locally. There is your kind of. Do you still live in Northern
I
California?
do. I am very blessed to live
Yeah.
north of the Golden Gate Bridge in Tiburon. It's in a
Nice. Oh yeah.
enclave by the water.
Yeah. Used to live there.
Did you?
Used to live
Oh,
there. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we loved it. We loved it so
where do
much.
you live now? Are you?
So I am remote and spending time in several different homes during the year. But but before the pandemic, we were downtown San Francisco, and I was actually living there in Tiburon, taking the Tiburon ferry in
Yes,
to the city. It's beautiful. I mean, it's an amazing
magical.
place. That ferry ride is a magical ride. So yeah,
Oh,
Tiburon's
I'm so
wonderful.
glad you know my
Absolutely beautiful
backyard.
place. Oh yeah, know it really well. So has your business? Do you do a lot of connecting there locally in the San Francisco area, or are you there just because you love it and now things have really your work is really more global?
Well, we moved up here 17 years ago and from Los
Okay,
Angeles, and we
got
had
it.
a career opportunity with,
Uh huh.
if you're familiar with Dick Bowles, What Color is Your Parachute?
Hmm.
That book, which is global. Most
Got it.
people in college back in my day, you got that book. That was your
Yeah.
Bible to
Right.
career. And again,
Yeah.
the way things show up for me, my very best friend who I had gone to school with back in Minnesota, she grew up
Uh
in
huh.
Minnesota, we grew up,
Yeah.
we she moves out here to Novato. She marries a guy from
Uh huh.
Gilroy. She moves to Novato.
Hmm.
We both raise our kids together, and we'd always say, oh, we got to live together. We got to live by each other because she is just such a
Nice.
wonderful human. She's at dinner at
Yeah.
Piatti's one night, and
Uh
here
huh.
a whole table, entourage, Dick Bowles and his whole group are sitting there. She's literally 2 feet away, and they're saying, oh, we need a chief marketing officer and a membership director to join the team, blah, blah, blah. She turns to them. She goes, I got the perfect couple for
Yeah.
you. And it was my husband. My husband actually
Nice.
is an award winning writer, chief marketing officer out of Los Angeles for 50
Beautiful.
writing awards. And then I had built the chamber, of course, in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
That chamber, day before September 11th, I started, and I was the only
Uh,
one in the Valley that brought in over 300
yeah.
members that year and was recruited to
Wow.
the economic development team by Mayor Hahn. And that's,
Nice.
and again, it was just when I bring it back to what, and I apologize, I lost my train of thought for one moment. Oh, how I got up here and then how we started.
Yeah.
Just, it was
Yeah.
an honor to work with Dick Bowles. And I
Yeah.
traveled as his basically PR agent and setting up
Hmm.
all of his workshops for career coaching, career
Right.
development. And then I took his master training course and was certified as
Yeah.
that. It was the gift I'll never forget because he passed away just 2 years ago at 92, and his
Yeah.
family became very close to ours. But
Yeah. Nice. Well, and so you've been up in that beautiful area ever since. There's nothing like watching the fog come over the Golden Gate Bridge. And just that setting is so wonderful. So very nice. Well, I'm imagining it now. Very, very nice. So talk to me a little bit. I would love to talk about mindfulness and leadership. And, really when you're looking to find leaders,
mhm,
and be able to impart leadership even in a team. I'm really curious. How important is the emotional
mm,
intelligence of a potential leader? And really, how do you assess those softer qualities when you're looking to find good candidates?
good question. I've been very blessed to have over in the Bay Area 30 C-level placements alone in various
Uh-huh.
verticals.
Wow.
Um, and I do
Yeah.
work in quite a few because I'm known as the um, critical hire search firm. Like when nobody else can find, I
Got it.
will. So in answer to your
Right.
question, when I reach out to people and I have the
Hmm.
engagement with potential C-level
Hmm.
candidates, management leaders. Really,
Sure.
my first goal, Paul, just like we're doing, is just to have an
Hmm.
authentic conversation. Let's
Right. Authenticity and connection. How important is it? Everybody's worried about AI taking over. No, forget it. No, authenticity and connection. It's so important. I
well,
love that.
yes, in our industry. I mean, if so, when I
Yeah.
approach it, I look,
Hmm.
of course, I do the basic research in terms of, their
Yeah.
resume, and then I look at their background and I look at who they're connected to, what they've done in the community. So I get that picture painted.
Hmm.
Then when I visit with
Hmm.
them, I'll be I'll say, Paul, just share with me what in this moment, if you could wave that magic
Hmm.
wand, what would your career look like for you in this moment?
Right.
And they're kind of caught
Hmm.
off guard
Hmm.
because they're prepared to give me the usual delivery, right? I want to
Right.
be, I've been a
Right.
director, I want to move. And I'll go, I
Sure.
hear you, but I want to go
Yeah.
deeper. And it is amazing
Hmm.
how many people that open up to me. I find out about their dog and their
Hmm.
kids and what lights them
Sure.
up. I find that if I
Right.
can get there, then
Hmm.
I can, in my mind, visualize what and how they'll fit with the team I'm building. Because the one
Yeah.
global solar company, actually, that we've worked with for
Hmm.
9.5 years, I'm happy to say, and we've had 48 placements. We literally built their
Wow.
corporate team in Silicon Valley, and
Sure.
and he entrusted me. But I would go in, Paul, every time there was a new assignment and meet with the hiring
Yeah.
person. I wanted to get
Right.
energy. I wanted to see the vibe, how they treat the people,
Yeah.
and read the room.
Right.
Because if I'm going to recruit
Yeah.
you,
So
yeah,
important.
and if I'm going to recruit
Yeah.
you, I want to represent my client authentically
Hmm.
again
Hmm.
and not spin
Yeah.
anything. Because at the end of the day, if I do
Hmm.
what I do well, you're going to stay. I'm building a career, not just a job.
Yeah.
And so there again, that's where the
Yeah.
mindfulness comes in. It's I'm very methodical about what I do, and I am
Yeah.
happy to say out of the 48 people we've placed, 36 are still there.
That's a
Yeah, my
great, yeah,
retention is
that's a great
insane.
number. Wow, your retention's very well, very,
But I care.
um,
I yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it's because you do connect with them at that level. But so well done, very well done, nice. So talk to me a little bit. Three traits. I'm just curious. I love those. Those are always great. What would you say are the top three traits that you see executives needing today in the fast moving environment that we have? Like, what do you identify as, boy, those are the top three traits that I say that one is going to be a win. They're going to stick.
Well, the first one is
Mhm.
to understand the mindset of my client. To
Mhm.
so I have no issue finding really good candidates. I can weed them out
Yeah.
quick if they have ego and they're all about
Yeah.
what's in it for them. Where when
Right.
I'm able to, again, talk to you and engage you, that one of the main
Hmm.
traits is, do you have a compassion and understanding for what you're walking
Hmm.
into? Do you really understand
Right.
what it takes to own a company, to provide the benefits, to provide a
Hmm.
beautiful office space, et cetera, et cetera?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so the first thing for me is really to get a real feel for their mindset, and then the second
Sure.
is where their ego is at. Because if
Hmm.
it's an entertaining ego, as I like to call it,
Yeah.
I know they'll never last, and I know they're not going to pitch in and
Yeah.
empty that basket if it's a startup. They just
Yeah.
want to be cool and hang out with all these tech people. That's not going to fly, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I try to judge where that ego, if it's a healthy, as in
Yeah.
confidence, love it.
Yeah.
Um, and
Right.
really, the third, I would say, I love hearing about their creative process with their mind. What is it that, if you
Hmm.
landed this position, what would you like to bring to it? What is it that's
Yeah.
important to you? Because those key things I'll take to my client. There's no surprises. When I present someone, I'll say,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, Z, you got to see Paul because he's got some really good ideas I think you might be interested in. A, because you're 40 something
Right.
and you got the pulse
Yeah.
on it, where, you know what I mean, for like that
Yeah.
position. So
Right.
that my candidates don't feel like they're stuck. If they want to grow,
Yeah.
because I always go through what's the growth mode for you. Give me your
Yeah.
2-year plan, five, give me a
Yeah.
vision so that I can help
Hmm.
craft it. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. No, I get it. I love it. I love what you said about having that confident humility because I mean that really long term is what makes a successful C level team. When you have one big ego, well, sometimes they might become the billionaire that everybody hates. That's a little bit interesting and a
Yes,
kind of a dichotomy in
I get that
our
way.
culture because we prop up these egos sometimes too much that are brilliant people, but don't have that ability necessarily to work with a team. But when you look at the the rest of middle America, the rest of the small, the medium markets that do sometimes grow into larger companies, you need that confident humility in the C-level team. And so that's something I definitely always look for and appreciate how you're saying that you really look for that. And I appreciate that the boards and the CEOs that you're working for in the Bay Area get that because that's not talked about very often.
No,
If you look at what's high, the PR surrounding ego and capitalism and what success is, the humility piece is missed a lot, but it's actually much more common than people
oh,
realize.
absolutely. And again, I think there's a saying I live by, and it's really
Hmm.
how I attract in what I do. And it's, I can only give what I actually live.
Yeah,
Meaning,
I agree with that.
I'm not, so when I've turned companies down because when I
Yeah.
see how they've treated people, or, I'll do my research.
Hmm.
It's not fair if I'm recruiting you. I'm not going to put
Hmm.
you into that hot mess. It, and
That's right.
so, yes, in fact, there is wonderful companies in the Bay Area that do treat their
Yeah,
people well. And I'm very
that's right.
fortunate to have aligned. There's like five particular companies that
Hmm.
I've worked with steady for 9 years that bring me in and they
Yeah.
have that critical hire. And I can't tell you how one company helped build the Warriors Stadium here in town, and they did all the luxury
Yeah.
offices and sky bars and whatnot. And I just remember when I got the call to help build that team, a project manager and a project engineer. And
Yeah.
in my mind, I thought, I got this. And I could just
Yeah.
visualize the excitement for whatever project manager landed that. And and that,
Yeah. What a fun project.
and yes, and he's their top project manager today. That was
Of course. Of
7 years ago.
course. Yeah.
But what I looked for
Yeah.
differently, Paul, in that, he actually
Yeah.
happened to be the um,
Hmm.
key project manager for Williams Sonoma building the Flagstaff store down in Union Square. And he just
Yeah.
thought differently. Like I met with him,
Yeah.
he jokes. I think I have my recommendation from him too, but he often jokes when I get to go in and see the gang every year and I bring him cookies because I bake at Christmas and whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
he'll say, I'll never forget, you took 2 hours to set it at Phil's Coffee with me, and you really cared. You got to know me.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's nice. That's nice to be able to have that kind of a connection with
Yeah.
people, Phil, right?
Yeah, to let them know
What
they
a win.
matter.
What a
And
win.
more than ever
Yeah.
today, with what's going on with
Yeah.
between
Yes.
politics, the shifts, the AI, I still
Yeah.
firmly believe in that human connection.
I do too. I'm a huge believer in that. We are absolutely aligned. Well, what keeps you motivated every day? What are you excited about for the future, and how do you continue to stay motivated
Well,
in your business?
so I am blessed to be married to a tremendous gentleman, Eric.
Yeah. Good
He's
for you.
my
Good for you.
partner. In fact, we'll be celebrating our 25th anniversary here in November. And yeah, it's
Congratulations.
it's a joy to be with someone that sees me. And even when we
Yeah.
started this business 10 years ago,
Hmm.
what led
Hmm.
up to it was I was doing specialty contract work for C-levels for a contingency firm. And long
Okay.
story short, I worked on this one project for 4 months, and we
Yeah.
were going to split the fee. It was a big position. I think it was 350
Sure.
plus,
Yeah.
and I got the number one guy in the country out of Los Angeles to come up. It
Hmm.
was for a renewable energy project, huge, huge,
Yeah.
And
Wow.
we were all set to close the deal. I was going to go pick him up at the airport. And I literally got
Yeah.
a note. Someone brought papers to the door and literally said I was no longer part of the firm. And I'm like, oh, what? So when you talk
Wow.
about resilience and what defines you in that
Yeah.
moment, I was like, what,
Yeah.
huh? And well, it was like 3 hours before, because obviously I was going to go to the airport. Because it
Yeah.
turned out, because the fee was so big, she didn't want to share it. And I didn't see the
Yeah.
fine print in my contract as an
Uh,
at-will
uh,
employee that, you know, and
ouch.
so here I am in my office, and I'm like in such shock. I'm bawling my eyes out, blah, blah. It brings me to
Yeah.
who motivates me. In walks my
Okay.
husband, and then my son,
Yeah.
Jack, who at the time,
Uh-huh.
oh my goodness, he was one of the top rowers from a rowing
Ah,
association in the country. And
sure.
he
Sure.
walks in and from rowing, he's got his gear on. He goes, Mom,
Yeah.
I'm glad this happened to you. And I go, what? I'm like, what? And he goes, it's about time. You need to start your own firm. You make so much, blah,
I
blah,
love
blah.
it.
And I'm
I
sobbing,
love it.
mind you. So
Yeah.
then
Sure.
I stand up and we're all hugging and blah, blah, blah. But my
Yeah.
husband, Eric, um,
Yeah.
who every day just does the kindest things, because sometimes
Yeah.
I get locked in here. He'll bring me in lunch, and we always
Of course.
2 mile walk. We build a gym in the backyard, so we
Nice.
get out and work out. My son Jack,
Beautiful.
who's now 24, he had the
Uh-huh.
opportunity. He was heavily recruited by 4 Ivy Leagues to row. He
Yeah.
came to us in his
Right.
senior year and said, "Mom and Dad, can I take a gap year?" And this is 2018.
Yeah. Wow.
And we said,
Yeah.
"Well, talk to us about it because we honor whatever you
Yeah.
want to do." So
Hmm.
he literally came to us with a business plan. He said, I have a vision
Oh,
for what
wow.
I want. I want to be in health and fitness, not a personal trainer, but he said, I want to take
Yeah.
people to be the best they can be and step into
Yeah.
it. And we're like, okay, but he had it all spelled out, Paul, like mind, body,
Yeah.
soul. And
Yeah.
so we go, okay, cool. So he went to Marin Community College for marketing communications, aced that for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Today, he has his own startup that he and his girlfriend launched a year
Yeah.
ago called Ascend
Nice.
Mushrooms. It's a health product for the
Hmm.
brain. And
Yeah.
they are now looking at an investor for 250 to take them to the next level. Like they're killing it. And they moved to Bend, Oregon,
Yeah.
and they do all the farmers
Nice.
markets. So every day we talk and he'll give me a sound bite. Just say, Mom's in the
Yeah.
game, And then my other
I love it.
son, who's 36, lives in Dallas, Trent,
Yeah.
he is a partner in an oil and gas company. And so,
Okay.
business wise, he'll get on the phone once a week with me. Mom, what's up? Need to talk to you about your strategy.
Yeah.
And so I get
I love that.
through,
Love
yeah.
that.
And I do have many other mentors. And, it's an interesting journey, what we do. And you've been in this space and you hear
Hmm.
stories. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, Paul, my intention always
Hmm.
is when you ask me what gets me excited, if I
Hmm.
can help lift someone up, just it could be
Yeah.
last night we were at Sprouts, there was a homeless woman, it just broke my heart. And my husband and I coming out just did something that we
Yeah.
could, because
Yeah.
you can. But if it's in the career space right now, what I'm finding
Hmm.
is so many young kids are uncertain. Jack will send me his
Yes.
friends to talk to and coach.
Yeah.
And then I give them
Yeah.
this sheet I do for anybody that I work with, to do a personal inventory. Let's just start right
Yep.
now exactly where you're at,
Hmm.
not where you think you should be, but let's get it all
Hmm.
out on paper. And so, and then of course I get my other end of the spectrum of people who've been out in the world and they're tired of doing what they're doing. So then I'll come to the place of, okay, I want to meet you where you're at. Let's explore, where have you been, what skills,
Hmm.
and it might be a total different trajectory.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I just feel so blessed. I've had an amazing career. I've gotten to do everything I've ever
Hmm.
wanted. And now we're
Yeah,
getting
it's fun.
ready. Actually, January, if I may share with you, I spent the last year, because it's been a slower year for search,
Sure,
writing
sure.
a 12-week online course called How
Hmm.
to Create Your Mindful Career Intentionally. And
Ooh, I like it.
it's the mind, body, soul. And I'm going to have some of the most
Hmm.
amazing speakers, because in the Bay Area, the
Yeah,
wealth of wisdom here. And we're going to have,
yeah, it's huge. Unbelievable amounts of mentors and very successful people. Tap into that. I hope you get it videoed and you can push out the video. I love what you said though, really about making sure that you're lifting people up. I think if every single day you can approach your day that you're lifting people up and helping them better themselves and improve what they have access to, it brings you along with them, and it's just an encouraging and enjoyable thing to do every day. So I think that's great. Well, you already gave some great advice, but maybe just in closing, maybe just what help the my audience. Some of them are trying to figure out how to differentiate themselves. Some of them are recruiters or staffing work for staffing agencies and are deciding maybe to start their own business and make that jump into being an entrepreneur. Some are already getting going in the business. But what would you say to people that are newer to our business, to the staffing industry? What can they do to differentiate themselves in the coming 5 years?
the number one thing that I am passionate about, and I do tell, it doesn't matter if it's new people or clients or candidates, you
Hmm.
have to show up grounded. You need to be fully
Yeah.
aware of your, um,
Hmm.
first of all, your intentions. If it's just to make
Yeah.
a lot of money, you're not going to survive,
Yeah.
because I've met,
Nor will you be happy.
no, no, it's a
Yeah.
fleeting thing, as you know. There's the ebbs and
Correct.
flows to
Agreed.
the industry, and
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
and people will always ask me, why did you choose construction? And I chose one of the most difficult verticals from the standpoint that
Hmm.
it's the commercial
Hmm.
vertical and luxury home. My
Hmm.
father was a luxury
Yeah.
home builder. I grew up in the space. All
Yeah.
my or my
Right.
uncles were builders, so I love their salt of the earth. Um, so I
Yeah.
knew I could connect with those people. And then renewable
Right.
energy, I chose that vertical.
Hmm.
So when anybody listening to this that might be a recruiter, I personally found I really needed to align with what I was truly interested in, because then the research,
Right.
everything on those projects. I've been a passionate
Yeah.
environmentalist for over 40 years. But along with
Sure.
that, the beautiful,
So you had a purpose. You had a purpose driven
yes,
connection to your
yeah.
business and have something more involved. I like that. Very
But you know
nice.
what, Paul, the other blessing really was there's a core group of three other executive firms like mine right here in Tiburon.
Hmm.
And I've worked with all of them where they'll call me in for special assignments. I've recruited
Yeah.
doctors for cancer research scientists,
Sure.
things like that. So,
Yeah.
so
Right.
the advice would be, first, be grounded in your truth. Is this really
Hmm.
something? Because you do know, boy, I could do stand-up
Hmm.
comedy on the other side of it,
Yeah.
of the searches that shift, the painful things that
Yeah.
have happened to some candidates that I couldn't even
Right.
imagine. Um,
Yeah.
and so you first have to really know that. And then, of course, what verticals,
Hmm.
and you can always expound on it. But I think the
Hmm.
bottom line would be, and it's worked for me, is to have that's why I'm doing this course on mind, body, soul, to have an impeccable mindset, to be a
Hmm.
passionate lifelong learner and read.
Yeah.
And I have a
Yep.
gazillion books because I love to read, self-taught.
Yeah.
And then your body, your health, that is going to give you the
Yeah.
energy to endure, have the resilience, right? Um, and
Right.
there's a lot more to that in terms of like breath work and just calming the vagus nerve, because I believe in all of that.
Yeah.
And then last,
Yeah.
really, soul, spirit. And that is like what we
Hmm.
just acknowledged. What is that passion?
Yeah.
What lights you up? And
Right.
sometimes you
Right.
are forced into it for that big wake up. And I just want to share this snippet with you because
Sure.
it's pretty powerful. So after we moved up here and we had the joy of working for Dick Bowles, my husband always wanted to do a coffee house in Sausalito.
Yeah.
You might have heard that,
Okay.
but
Great.
it was North Point. It was 2004, 2008. We were number one in
Yep.
the community. I was running the chamber. Everybody, did
Yep.
lots of community events. Well, then 2008 happened, and we all know what that was.
Right.
Paul,
Yeah.
we lost everything. Like we were wiped out to the core. We lost our investments.
Been there. Been there. Been there.
The coffee house. And you know what? In that moment, and Jack at that time was only 7, and I knew you could be bitter or better. And again,
Agreed.
the training I had back in my 20s with Zig Ziglar and all the guys, and Dr. Wayne Dyer, who is my big mentor, I said to my husband, you know what? The universe is telling me to get back into search and to do dedicated recruiting so I can help people. And then he got to write his books. And I am happy to say he's writing an incredible book with Dr. Hammer called A Mindful Teen. The doctor's from Stanford. He's just picked up by a large publisher in New York, and it's going to be printed in 38 countries. But I share that because if that had not happened, we wouldn't have shifted to this place. So I can relate to people when they lose everything. And we were fortunate to have a couple $1,000s that we were able to land and get stable. And you know what?
Yeah.
Then I couldn't see it, but I knew if I stayed true to who I am.
Yeah.
And it came back.
Yeah. It would come back around.
10 times.
Amazing.
Yeah, but so the journey of it, and like I said, there were a lot of entertaining moments. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But today to have the very simple lifestyle we lead and to live as we do, I just every day go, thank you. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, that's very nice. Those are encouraging words. And I feel the same way. Some of my best clients, some of my best entrepreneurs that have become wildly successful, some of them have made themselves some significant wealth, have been on their second or third learning experience where, their last business completely failed, completely tanked. I've had that myself personally several times where, things don't work out in a business and you learn from it. You can either keep going or you can put your head in the sand. But I've always continued to get up and just keep moving forward. And now I'm coming off 2 of my best years of my career ever. And there was some challenging times during the pandemic. So it's nice to be able to see other people echo that. You got to keep getting up and keep moving forward. Well, it's been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time today to be on the Growth Game podcast. We definitely talked about some of the specific things that my audience can pattern match. That's something we always talk about is what can you pattern match with my guest that will be able to help your day-to-day and help you grow. So thank you for the time, and I appreciate all the wonderful tidbits. Thank you for being with us, and we'll definitely have to stay in touch. So Carol Ann, we appreciate it, and we'll be able to speak again soon. Okay, well, I'm Paul DeLuca, CEO of Meritus Capital. That's a wrap for another Growth Game podcast. Please make sure to subscribe and continue to listen in as we move through some amazing guests coming up here in the fourth quarter, and we appreciate today's conversation so much. Have a great day.